Welcome back to the channel. These stories are meant for late nights, quiet rooms, and headphones on. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let's begin the first story. I never cared for the sea. Not in the poetic way people talk about it, not in the romantic sense of freedom or adventure. To me, the ocean was a vast, restless thing that hid too much and revealed too little. But when you spend your life chasing stories that no one else believes, you learn to follow discomfort like a compass. My name is Jonah Reed, and I used to write articles about forgotten places, abandoned towns, sunken ships, vanished roads. Things that slipped between the cracks of maps and memory. That's how I found the first reference to Wraith Cay. It appeared in a whaling journal dated 1846. One brittle page, ink smeared by seawater, recorded a single line that caught my eye. Avoid Wraith Cay. The land does not suffer visitors. No coordinates, no explanation, just that sentence. Like a warning passed down through panic and superstition. I searched for weeks afterward. Maritime records, naval archives, old lighthouse registries. The name never appeared again. It was as if Wraith Cay had been deliberately erased. That should have ended it. Instead, it became an obsession. I chartered a small research vessel off the northern coast with a 3-person crew. People who didn't ask too many questions. Mara, the navigator, practical and sharp. Evan, the mechanic, skeptical to the bone. And Luis, a quiet deckhand who carried a silver crucifix and never explained why. We left port under clear skies. The first day passed uneventfully. The second day, the instruments began to fail. The compass spun lazily in circles. The GPS blinked, froze, then displayed coordinates that made no sense. Radio transmissions dissolved into static threaded with whispers that vanished when you tried to focus on them. By dusk, fog rolled in, thick, heavy, wrong. It didn't drift naturally. It crawled. It wrapped around the hull. It clung to our skin with cold fingers. And through it, barely visible, rose the silhouette of land. Jagged cliffs, trees twisted like broken hands, a shoreline the color of bruised stone. Wraith Cay. Mara wanted to turn back. Evan argued the engine wouldn't survive fighting the current. Luis simply stared at the island, lips moving in silent prayer. I should have listened to them. Instead, I said, "We came this far." By the time we anchored, the temperature had dropped so fast our breath fogged the air. No birds, no waves breaking, no wind, just stillness so deep it rang in the ears. The moment my boots touched the shore, I knew something was wrong. The ground wasn't just cold, it was pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat beneath the soil. We trekked inland. The forest swallowed us immediately. The canopy above blocked the sky. Moss grew thick on every surface, damp and slick, but nothing smelled alive. There was no scent of pine or rot or earth, just a sterile emptiness, like old stone long sealed underground. After an hour of walking, we found the first structure. Ruins of a settlement. Wooden beams collapsed inward. Stone chimneys cracked, door frames hanging open like broken mouths. But what disturbed me most was the absence of decay. No vines, no animal nests, no sign that nature had reclaimed anything. The village looked abandoned minutes ago, not centuries. Mara noticed the carvings first. Symbols etched into every doorway, every wall, spirals within spirals. Shapes that made the eyes slide away when you tried to focus on them. Luis crossed himself and refused to enter. Inside the largest building, we found tables set for meals that never came. Plates, cups, chairs pulled out as if someone had just stood up. Dustless. Timeless. Evan muttered, "This place is wrong." And for once, no one argued. Then we heard it. A single footstep. Not ours. Behind us. We turned. Nothing there. But the sense of being watched settled heavy on the back of my neck. We pushed deeper into the island, driven by a curiosity that now felt less like choice and more like gravity. The trees grew thicker. Their trunks leaned inward, forming archways like rib cages. The path beneath us wound in unnatural curves, leading always downward. Luis stopped walking. He pointed ahead. A figure stood between the trees. At first, I thought it was a person, a survivor, a castaway. But the longer I looked, the more wrong it felt. Too tall, too still, its outline blurred at the edges as if refusing to stay fully in our reality. I raised my voice. "Hello?" The figure vanished. Not walked away, not faded, just gone, like it had never been there. The air shifted, pressure dropped, my ears popped. Mara grabbed my arm. "Jonah," she whispered, "we need to go back, now." That was when the voice came. Not from any direction, from everywhere. Low, calm, certain. "You arrived." Luis dropped to his knees. Evan backed away slowly. I tried to speak, but my tongue felt thick. The ground trembled gently, like something immense shifting below us. Few arrive, fewer leave. Fog began rolling between the trees again, faster this time, deliberate, hungry. It wrapped around Luis first. He screamed as it pulled him backward. We grabbed his arms, tried to pull him free, but the fog had weight now, strength. It yanked him out of our hands and swallowed him whole. Silence followed. No echo of his scream. No trace that he had existed. Mara ran. Evan ran. I ran with them. The forest warped as we moved, paths twisting, trees shifting position between blinks. No matter which direction we chose, the fog stayed behind us, chasing, breathing. Evan tripped. When I turned to help him, I saw his eyes roll white. His body stiffened. Then he simply collapsed, unmoving, like someone had unplugged him from life. Mara screamed for me to keep going. We burst into another clearing. At its center stood a stone structure half sunken into the earth. A stairway spiraled downward into darkness. Symbols pulsed faintly along the walls, glowing like embers beneath ash. And at the top of the stairs stood the figure again. Clearer now, tall, bent, wrapped in something that looked like torn fog held in humanoid shape. Its face was a hollow void, no features, just emptiness. It raised one long arm and pointed towards the stairway. "The island chooses." Mara grabbed my hand. "Don't follow it," she said. "Whatever happens, don't go down there." Behind us, the fog roared closer. The forest shook, trees bent like kneeling worshippers. We stood trapped between descent and annihilation. The figure waited, patient, hungry, and the island pulsed beneath our feet like a living heart preparing to swallow us whole. Mara's grip on my hand was tight enough to hurt. The fog behind us hissed like a living thing, rolling faster now, swallowing the forest inch by inch. The tall figure at the stairway did not move, yet I felt its attention pressing against my thoughts like fingers against glass. "The island chooses." The voice came again, deeper this time. Not loud, but absolute. The kind of sound that did not enter your ears, but arrived directly inside your skull. Mara shook her head violently. "Jonah, don't listen to it. We can still run." But the path behind us was already gone. Where the forest had been, there was only fog. No trees, no ground. Just shifting white emptiness stretching in every direction. Evan's body lay where he had fallen, half covered by creeping mist. His chest did not rise. His eyes were still rolled back, staring at nothing. I wanted to go to him, but the fog brushed my ankles like cold water, warning me not to step closer. Lewis was gone. Evan was gone, and the island was closing around us. The figure lifted its arm again and pointed to the descending stairway. Enter. Mara stepped in front of me. If we go down there, we're not coming back. I knew she was right, but I also knew that staying above ground meant being taken by the fog. The island had already decided. The only choice left was how we were swallowed. I squeezed Mara's hand. We stay together, I said. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once, jaw trembling. We stepped toward the stairway. The figure dissolved as we passed it, peeling away like smoke in reverse. The moment we crossed the threshold, the fog behind us sealed shut, cutting off the forest completely. Only darkness remained ahead. We descended. The stone steps spiraled down farther than should be possible. My phone flashlight barely reached a few meters ahead. Symbols pulsed faintly on the walls, the same spirals we had seen in the village, now glowing with a dull amber light. They moved, shifted, rearranged themselves when I wasn't looking directly at them. After what felt like an hour, we reached the bottom. A vast underground chamber opened before us. The ceiling was lost in darkness. The floor was smooth stone, damp and cold. In the center of the chamber stood a pool of black water, perfectly still, not reflecting light, not rippling, just an oval of absolute void. Around the pool were shapes, people, dozens of them, standing upright, motionless, facing the water. Men, women, children. Their clothes were old-fashioned. Some looked like sailors, some like villagers, some like modern tourists, all with the same empty posture, arms hanging loosely, heads slightly tilted forward. I stepped closer to one. It was a man in a worn raincoat. Salt crusted the edges. His skin was pale as wax. His eyes were open but glassy. Not dead, not alive, just paused. Mara whispered, "Jonah, look at the floor." I looked down. Beneath every person, the stone was engraved with a name, dates, coordinates, a record, a ledger carved into the earth. This was not a tomb. This was a collection. The voice returned. They came. They were chosen. They remain. The black water in the pool began to move, a slow swirl, like something turning beneath the surface. Mara backed away. We need to leave now. But as she spoke, one of the standing figures moved. A woman in a torn dress lifted her head. Her eyes locked onto Mara. Her lips parted, and she screamed. Not with a voice, with silence. A silent scream that filled inside our minds, filled with panic, drowning, endless falling. Mara collapsed to her knees, clutching her head. I tried to pull her up, but the ground beneath us pulsed again, a slow, powerful heartbeat. From the pool, something rose, a shape, vast, tall, humanoid, but made of darkness thicker than shadow. Its limbs stretched too long, its torso twisted, its head hung at an unnatural angle, and where its face should be, there was only a swirling void like the pool itself. When it spoke, the chamber vibrated. The island lives, the island hungers, the island remembers. I felt it then, a pressure at the base of my skull, a pull inside my chest, like invisible threads tying me to the thing before us. Mara struggled to her feet. Her eyes were wet but focused. "We're not staying," she hissed. She grabbed a loose stone from the floor and hurled it into the black pool. The moment it touched the surface, the water erupted. A shockwave blasted outward, knocking us off our feet. The standing figures around the chamber twitched. Some turned their heads towards us. Others raised their arms, jerking like puppets on strings. The dark figure screamed, not in anger, but in surprise. Mara grabbed my wrist. "Run!" We ran along the edge of the chamber, searching for another passage, another stairway, anything. Behind us, the pool overflowed, spilling black liquid across the stone floor. It moved like spilled ink, racing towards our feet. Ahead, a narrow crack in the rock wall pulsed with dim light. We squeezed through just as the black water reached our heels. The crack opened into another passage, slooping upward. We climbed, slipping on damp stone, lungs burning, hearts hammering. Behind us, the voice roared again. "You cannot leave. You are chosen." The walls began to shake. Dust fell from above. The passage twisted, turning, folding it on itself like living intestines. Several times I thought we were running in circles, but the air ahead began to smell different. Salt, wind, the sea. We burst out of the passage onto a cliffside ledge. Night had fallen. The ocean below churned violently, waves crashing against black rock. The sky was clouded, the moon a pale blur behind drifting mist. Our boat was gone. Anchors torn free, rope dangling uselessly from the dock. Mara stared at the empty shoreline. We're trapped. The ground trembled again. Behind us, the cliff wall cracked. The tall, dark figure pushed through solid stone as if it were fog. Its void face turned towards us. Its presence made the air taste metallic like blood. "The island chooses." Mara looked at me. I understood what she was thinking before she said it. "If we don't stop it, it'll keep taking people," she whispered. I shook my head. "We can't fight that thing." "Maybe not," she said, "but we can starve it." She pointed towards the cliff edge. The pool, the heart of it. If we cut it off from the sea. I followed her gaze. Black water now poured from cracks in the rock behind us, streaming down towards the ocean, feeding the waves. The island wasn't just alive, it was drinking, and the sea was its blood supply. We ran along the cliff path, towards where the black streams met the waves. The dark figure followed, gliding rather than walking, gaining on us with terrifying ease. At the cliff edge stood a narrow stone bridge, natural rock arcing over the churning water. Black liquid rushed beneath it, flowing from the island into the ocean. Mara did not hesitate. She stepped onto the bridge. I followed. The stone vibrated under our feet like a living spine. The wind howled, spray hit our faces. Beneath us, the black current pulsed with strange light. The dark figure reached the bridge entrance. "Return," it commanded. Mara turned to me. Her expression was calm now, resigned. "Jonah," she said softly, "if the island needs watchers, then it won't let both of us go." My stomach dropped. "No." She stepped back towards the center of the bridge. "The articles you write this, warn them, never let anyone come here again." The dark figure stretched its arm towards her. I grabbed her hand. "We go together." But she shook her head and pushed me away with surprising force. I stumbled backward towards the cliff path. "Run," she said. "That's an order." The bridge cracked. A deep fracture split the stone beneath Mara's feet. Black liquid surged upward, wrapping around her legs like tar. She didn't scream. She just looked at me one last time. Then the bridge collapsed. Mara fell with it, swallowed by black water and darkness. The dark figure screamed, a sound that shook the sky. The cliff beneath me split, throwing me backward. I hit the ground hard, rolling down the slope. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on a beach. Morning sunlight, blue sky, gentle waves, seagulls calling. Wraith Cay was gone. No cliffs, no forest, no ruins, only open sea stretching to the horizon. A fishing boat approached. 2 men pulled me on board, asking questions I could barely answer. They said they had found me drifting on a piece of broken wood miles from shore. There was no island on any chart, no coordinates, no record, only me. I returned home. I told my story. No one believed it. Mara and Evan were listed as missing at sea. Lewis never existed in any crew manifest. The charter company denied my booking ever took place. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear the ocean in my dreams. I see rows of motionless people standing around a black pool. I feel the ground pulsing like a living heart. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, just for a moment, I see water behind my reflection instead of glass. Wraith Cay didn't disappear. It let me go. And one day, I know it will call me back. Because the island does not suffer visitors. It keeps them.
I used to love late-night radio. There was something intimate about it. Voices traveling through darkness, keeping strangers company while the rest of the world slept. When I was younger, I would fall asleep with a small radio on my nightstand, listening to soft music and quiet talk shows until the static swallowed them. I never expected radio to be the thing that would ruin my life. My name is Callum Price. I'm a sound engineer, or I was before everything went wrong. Last winter, I took a temporary contract at a remote broadcast station called Dreadline FM, located just outside the town of Hollow Creek. It was the kind of place that barely showed up on a map. One main road, a gas station, a diner, and pine forest stretching in every direction. The station itself sat on a hill beyond town limits, a squat concrete building with a rusted radio tower beside it. Locals called it the lighthouse because at night its red warning light blinked steadily over the treetops. The job was simple: night shift, midnight to 6 in the morning. Keep the music running, answer the request line if anyone called, log signal checks. Easy money. On my first night, the station manager, a tired woman named Denise, gave me a quick tour. 2 small recording booths, a control room packed with aging equipment, a break room with a vending machine that hummed louder than it should, and one final door at the end of the hallway. She didn't open that one. "That's the archive room," she said. "Old tapes. Don't worry about it." I didn't think much of it at the time. The first week was uneventful. The town barely called. Occasionally, a trucker passing through would request a song. A lonely insomniac would ask me to play something slow. The rest of the time, I just sat behind the mixing board, sipping bad coffee and listening to the wind brush the building. But on the 8th night, things changed. At exactly 3:17 a.m., every monitor in the control room flickered. The music cut out. A sharp burst of static ripped through my headphones. Then a voice came through the studio mic channel. Not from the phone line, not from any open input. A voice directly on the broadcast feed. "Hello?" it said. Soft, male, young. I checked the board. No microphones were open, no lines active. "Hello?" the voice repeated. "Is anyone listening?" My throat went dry. I leaned into my mic. "This is Dreadline FM. You're on air. Who is this?" Silence. Then breathing. Slow. Close. Like the speaker was leaning into a microphone inches from their mouth. "Please," the voice whispered. "Don't turn it off." A spike of interference surged across the sound meters. I yanked off my headphones. The voice continued through the studio speakers. "Callum," it said. My name. I had never given my name on air. I shut down the channel manually. The broadcast music returned. Normal. Clean. As if nothing had happened. I sat there for a long time, staring at the board, telling myself it had been a glitch, a stray signal, a prank, something explainable. But when I checked the call log, there was no incoming call. And when I checked the recording buffer, there was no trace of the voice, like it had never existed. The next night, I came in early. I wanted to feel prepared. I checked every wire, every input, every backup system. Everything was fine. 3:17 a.m. arrived. The lights dimmed slightly. The air in the room felt heavier. The tower outside groaned in the wind. Static burst into my headphones again. "Callum," the voice said. "Calm this time. Certain." I froze. "What do you want?" I asked quietly. "I've been waiting a long time. You can hear me. That means you're close enough." "Close enough to what?" Silence. Then a faint sound behind the words. Not static, something rhythmic. A slow dripping, like water hitting stone. "I'm in the dark," the voice said. "There's no door here. Only sound. Only the line. Don't leave me." I should have cut the feed again. I knew that. Every instinct told me to. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, and I had always been curious about sound, about signals, about what hides in the spaces between frequencies. "Where are you?" I asked. "Below," the voice answered.
below the tower. A new sound bled into the channel, not just dripping now, a faint hum, deep, vibrating, almost like a heartbeat. Then the broadcast snapped back to music. I sat back, unsettled but still trying to stay rational. That morning, when Denise came in, I told her about the interference. I did not mention the voice saying my name. I just said there was strange feedback at night. Her expression tightened. "Don't mess with the archive room," she said. "I didn't," I replied. She stared at me for a moment, then forced a smile. "Probably old equipment acting up. We'll look at it later." She never did. Over the next few nights, the voice returned, always at 3:17 a.m., always just long enough to speak a few sentences. I remember sunlight. There used to be others here. The tower keeps me awake. Sometimes I asked questions. Sometimes I stayed silent. Either way, the voice spoke as if it had been waiting for someone like me for a long time. On the 5th night, it said something new. "Do you hear the humming?" it asked. I paused, listened. Beneath the faint buzz of electronics, I noticed it. A low vibration, so soft I almost missed it. Not coming from the equipment, coming from the walls. "I hear it," I said. "It wasn't there before," the voice whispered. "They turned it on again." "Who did?" "The ones above." The channel died abruptly. The lights flickered back to normal. I was left sitting in a quiet control room with my heart thudding too fast in my chest. The next day, I went into town. I ate at the diner. I asked the waitress how long Greyline FM had been operating. She thought for a moment. "Long time," she said. "Since before I was born. Station used to be bigger, more staff, had live shows. Then something happened. People left. Just 1 or 2 workers now." "What happened?" I asked. She shrugged. "Old rumor. Some kind of accident. Maybe fire, or someone went missing. Hard to know. Folks don't like talking about that hill." That night, I arrived early again. I walked down the hallway to the archive room. The door was locked. A simple padlock. Cheap. Old. I could have broken it easily. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I sat at the console, waited. 3:17 a.m. The voice came through clearer than ever before. No static, no distortion, as if the speaker was sitting in the booth next door. "Callum," it said. "Tonight, you have to listen carefully." "To what?" "The last broadcast," it replied. Then through the channel, I heard it. A recording. Old, warped, but recognizable as a radio show. A host speaking cheerfully. Music in the background. Audience laughter. Then screaming. The laughter turned into panic, the host shouting for someone to shut something down. A deep humming swallowing every other sound. A microphone falling. A voice, closer than all the rest, whispering, "Below, below, below." The recording ended. Silence. I sat motionless, skin prickling, scalp tight. "That was here," the voice said. "That was the night they sealed the door." "What door?" I asked. No answer. Only breathing. Slow. Waiting. And then the final whisper before the feed cut out. "Tonight, you come downstairs." I didn't sleep after the voice told me to come downstairs. There was no downstairs in the station. At least, not one I had seen. The building was one level, flat concrete foundation built into the hill. No basement door, no staircase, no hatch. I walked every hallway twice before my shift ended. Nothing. Still, the humming followed me. Once I noticed it, I couldn't unhear it. A low vibration behind the walls, beneath the floor, beneath everything. Like the building sat on top of a giant machine that never stopped running. By sunrise, I was exhausted, jittery, and out of excuses. When Denise arrived that morning, I asked her directly, "Is there a basement in this building?" She froze mid-step. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she laughed too quickly. No, why would there be? Because I hear something under the floor at night. Her smile vanished. Callum, she said quietly, you're working too many hours alone. It's getting to you. I'm not imagining it. She didn't argue. She just walked to the end of the hallway, to the archive room door, the one with the padlock. You stay out of there, she said. Do you understand? I wanted to ask why. I wanted to demand answers, but something in her eyes stopped me. Fear. Real fear. Not annoyance, not suspicion. She left. I stood in the hallway staring at the locked door long after her car disappeared down the hill. That night, I came back with bolt cutters. It felt wrong, like trespassing in my own workplace, but curiosity had sunk its hooks too deep. The voice knew my name. It knew the station's past, and it wanted me downstairs. At 11:58 p.m., I cut the lock. The metal snapped with a dull crack that echoed down the empty hallway. I opened the door. The archive room smelled like dust and old paper. Shelves of cassette tapes lined the walls, boxes stacked in corners. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering. At first, it looked normal. Then I saw the second door. It was set into the floor. A heavy metal hatch, painted the same gray as the concrete, almost invisible if you weren't looking for it. A circular handle sat at its center, and from beneath it, faint but unmistakable, came the humming. My pulse roared in my ears. I should have walked away, should have locked the door, gone home, quit the job, left Hollow Creek behind. Instead, I wrapped my fingers around the handle and pulled. The hatch resisted, then opened with a slow, reluctant groan. A ladder descended into darkness. Cold air rose from below, carrying the scent of damp earth and old metal, and something else, something stale, like a room sealed too long. I didn't climb down, not yet. I closed the hatch, locked the archive room behind me, returned to the control room, sat at the console with shaking hands. I needed to hear the voice again before I went down there. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind, that there was a reason. 3:17 a.m. arrived. The lights dimmed, the humming grew louder, the broadcast cut to static, and the voice returned, closer than ever. You found the door, it said. I didn't bother pretending anymore. Yes. Good, it whispered. You're the first in years who listened. What is down there? I asked. A pause. Us. Who's us? The ones who stayed, the ones who kept broadcasting after the fire, after they sealed the exit, after the air ran out. My stomach turned. That recording, the screams, that was real. Yes, the tower feeds on sound, on attention, on voices. We were hosts, engineers, night workers. We talked into the microphones, and it listened. What listened? The humming rose until it rattled the metal surfaces of the console. The signal below, the one that doesn't belong to this world. It came through the tower, through the line. It promised we'd never be alone again, and it kept its promise. A sound bled into the channel. Not static, not hum. Human voices, dozens of them, layered, whispering, laughing, crying, singing nursery rhymes out of sync, all at once. Callum, the voice said gently, come downstairs, finish the broadcast. My hands were slick with sweat. If I go down there, I asked, can I leave? Silence. Then a simple answer. No. The feed cut. Music resumed, cheerfully and wrong. I sat there, breathing hard, mind racing. This wasn't a ghost story, not exactly. It was something else, something hungry, something bound to signal and sound and attention, and it wanted a new host. I didn't drive home after that shift. I sat in my car outside the station and watched the tower's red light blink against the gray dawn. Once, twice, again, like a heartbeat. I knew if I quit, if I left town, maybe it would follow. It already knew my name, my voice. It had spoken to me through machines. Distance wouldn't matter. So I made a plan. If the thing below fed on sound, on broadcast, on attention, then I would starve it, cut the line, destroy the tower, end the signal. By sunset, I had returned with tools, gasoline, and every ounce of resolve I had left. I started with the control room. I smashed the mixing board, tore cables from their sockets, ripped microphones off their stands. The station went dead. No music, no feed, no signal. The humming didn't stop. It got louder. The floor vibrated beneath my boots. Dust fell from ceiling tiles. A whisper drifted up through the vents. Too late. I ran to the archive room, opened the door. The hatch in the floor shook in its frame. Something struck it from below, again and again. Metal bending, screws loosening. I poured gasoline along the shelves of tapes, over the boxes, over the wooden floor. The smell burned my nose. "Callum," the voice said from beneath the hatch. "We're so lonely." The hatch burst open. Darkness spilled upward, not just absence of light, a thick, crawling black that moved like smoke and water at once. From it came hands, dozens, human hands, reaching, grasping, nails broken, fingers thin and trembling. Faces followed, half seen, mouths open in silent screams, eyes reflecting no light at all. The voice that guided me rose above the others. "You'll never be alone again." I struck the match. The flame bloomed small and bright. I dropped it onto the gasoline. Fire raced across the room. Shelves ignited, tapes melted, plastic dripped. Heat roared upward. The hands recoiled. The darkness shrieked without sound. The humming beneath the building faltered like a dying engine. I ran. Out of the archive room, down the hallway, through the main door, into the cold night air. Behind me, flames climbed through the windows. The tower's red light blinked once, twice, then exploded in a shower of sparks as the fire reached its wiring. The ground shook. A deep, angry vibration rolled through the hill. A final chorus of voices rose from inside the burning station. Then silence. By the time fire trucks arrived, the building was already collapsing in on itself. I stood on the roadside, covered in soot, coughing, staring at the ruin. No one asked many questions. An electrical faults, they decided. Old wiring, an empty station, no casualties, just property loss. Denise never returned to town. Dreadline FM was gone. For a while, I believed it was over. I moved away, changed jobs, avoided radio, avoided silence, avoided anything that reminded me of that place. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is still, I hear it again. A faint hum beneath the floor, and in the static between stations, a familiar voice whispering softly, "Callum, the broadcast isn't finished." If you ever drive past Hollow Creek and see a lone red light blinking on a hill where no tower stands, don't tune your radio. Don't listen too closely to the static. Some signals should never be heard, and some voices never truly stop broadcasting.
People think curses are dramatic. Chanting, thunder, blood sacrifices. They imagine Hollywood nonsense. The truth is much quieter. A whisper, a suggestion, a simple choice that feels harmless in the moment. My name is Naomi Reyes. I used to restore antique artifacts for the Briarwood Cultural Museum, a small institution tucked in a fog-heavy town along the Oregon coast. My job was to repair objects that time had forgotten: cracked pottery, torn tapestries, rusted tools. I loved it, bringing the past back to life with careful hands and patience. I never expected the past to reach back. It started with a delivery. No sender, no paperwork.
just a narrow wooden box left on the museum's receiving table one rainy morning. The night guard swore he hadn't seen anyone drop it off. The cameras had glitched for 3 minutes around the time it appeared. Inside was a single object resting on black velvet. A needle. Not a sewing needle, not medical. This was long, thin, and carved from dark volcanic glass. Faint red veins ran through it like trapped lightning. The tip was sharp enough to draw blood with a breath. It looked ancient, older than anything I had ever worked on. Carved into the wooden box lid was one word: Merowyn. I should have handed it to the museum director immediately, logged it, secured it, let someone else decide what to do. Instead, I picked it up. It felt warm, not room temperature warm, body warm, like it had been resting in a palm just moments before. A pressure bloomed behind my eyes, like a thought that wasn't mine brushing against my mind. Then it faded. I told myself I'd research it privately first. Maybe it was a ritual tool. Maybe I could publish a paper on it. Maybe I just wanted something that was mine alone in a job where credit was rare. So I slipped it into my bag and took it home. That night, I dreamed of a woman standing in a circle of gray ash. Her hair hung in wet strands over her face. In one hand, she held the needle. In the other, a small clay figure shaped like a person. She didn't speak. She simply pushed the needle into the doll's chest. I woke up gasping, clutching my own heart. I laughed it off. Stress dream, nothing more. But the dreams kept coming, every night. Always the same woman, always the same circle, always the same motion. On the third night, she looked up. Her eyes were not eyes at all, just hollow pits filled with crawling darkness. And somehow I knew she was looking directly at me. When I woke that morning, there was a small circular mark on my wrist, a burn, perfectly round, as if something hot had pressed against my skin. The needle sat on my bedside table where I had left it, except I was certain I had put it in a drawer. Strange things followed. Electronics flickered when I touched the needle, lights dimmed, my reflection in mirrors lagged behind me by a fraction of a second, just long enough to notice, just long enough to question my sanity. At work, I began researching the name carved on the box, Merowyn. It didn't appear in museum records, not in local history, not in any academic database, until I searched the old university archives stored on microfilm. There, buried in a brittle anthropology journal from 1912, I found a single reference: the Merowyn rite, a coastal death-binding practice predating European settlement. The practitioner was said to stitch fate itself with a needle of black glass. One rule governed the rite: the curse must be invited. The hand that holds the needle must choose. I reread that sentence several times. The curse must be invited. The hand must choose. That night, the whisper began. Not out loud, inside my thoughts, a voice like dry leaves brushing together. It named people, faces from my life, old grudges, small humiliations, a former friend who betrayed me, a professor who stole my research credit, a neighbor who played music too loud at night. Then one name repeated more than the others: Dr. Elaine Porter, my supervisor, the woman who had quietly published my restoration discovery under her own name, the woman who smiled at me while stepping on my career. The whisper told me it could fix that. Just one stitch, just one prick. No one would ever know. I resisted. For days, I kept the needle locked in a metal box. I recited logic to myself. Curses were folklore. Dreams were stress. Whispers were imagination.
Then I came home one evening to find my cat lying on the kitchen floor, still, cold, a thin line across her throat, and resting beside her, glistening under the light, was the needle. Something inside me cracked. Grief, rage, fear, all tangled together. That night, with shaking hands, I melted a candle and formed a crude wax doll. Arms, legs, a head, a rough human shape. I whispered Dr. Porter's name as I shaped it. Then I dipped the needle tip into my own blood, and I pressed it into the doll's chest. Outside, thunder rolled across the coastline. Not loud, just distant and heavy. The next morning, Dr. Porter collapsed in the museum lobby. Heart attack, sudden, no warning, no underlying condition. People cried, hugged, whispered about tragedy. I stood among them, numb. I waited for guilt to come. It didn't. Instead, the whisper returned that night, warm and pleased. And the woman in my dreams now stood beside me in the ash circle, smiling with a mouth too wide to be human. She began to teach me how to bind sickness into fabric, how to steal a voice and trap it in glass, how to twist luck until it rotted. The needle no longer felt like an object. It felt like an extension of my hand. Problems disappeared. Enemies suffered strange accidents. People who crossed me lost things they could never replace. Power is a quiet drug. You don't notice addiction until you cannot imagine living without it. But the price always arrives. It started with mirrors. My reflection smiled when I didn't, blinked out of rhythm, tilted its head as if studying me. Then I woke one night to find a new wax doll on my work table, perfectly shaped, perfectly detailed, with my face, my hair, my name carved in the base. The needle lay beside it, warm. The whisper no longer asked, it commanded, "Finish the binding." I refused. That night, the needle moved on its own. I watched paralyzed as it lifted and drove itself into my thigh. Pain exploded. Blood ran. The doll on the table now had a matching wound. I understood then. The woman in the dreams was not guiding me. She was feeding. Each curse strengthened her. Each stitch pulled her closer to the waking world. And now I was the final vessel. I knew there was only one way to end it. In another forbidden text, hidden behind a false panel in the university archive, I found a counter-rite. The needle must taste its own flesh. The binder must invite the curse fully. Only then may the spirit be sealed. It meant death, or something worse. I prepared my apartment that night. Salt on every window, protective sigils carved into my skin, 7 black candles burning around a circle of ash on the floor. I placed the wax doll of myself in the center, and I called her name aloud. "Merwin, I revoke you." The candles flickered. The room grew cold. The walls stretched and pulsed like breathing skin. She appeared in the flames, tall, crooked, wrapped in veils of ash. Her face a shifting mouths and eyes. Her fingers ended in dozens of needle tips, each whispering with stolen voices. "You made me," she rasped. "You invited me." I raised the needle. She lunged, and I drove it into my own heart. Agony beyond language. Light. Darkness. Falling. Silence.
I woke up 3 days later. That's what the doctor told me, at least. 3 days unconscious in a hospital bed in the nearby town of Greyhaven. No visitors, no phone, no explanation beyond the thin medical chart at the foot of my bed. Self-inflicted puncture wound to the chest. Patient found unresponsive in apartment. No sign of forced entry. No weapon recovered. No weapon recovered. The needle was gone. I remember trying to sit up, feeling the tight pull of stitches under my hospital gown. A nurse rushed in, startled to see me awake. She smiled too quickly, the way people do when they're nervous. "You're very lucky," she said. "Another centimeter and you wouldn't be here." Lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt empty, hollowed out, as if something had been scooped from inside me and replaced with cold air. They discharged me the next morning. No psych hold, no questions, just a pamphlet on self-harm support and a plastic bag containing my clothes. When I stepped outside, the coastal fog rolled thick across the parking lot. The world felt muted, distant, like I was viewing it through a layer of glass. I walked back to my apartment. The front door stood unlocked. I didn't remember leaving it that way. Inside, everything looked exactly as I had left it. The ash circles still on the floor, the black candles burned down to puddles of wax. The wax doll of myself sat in the center, untouched. Except now, there was something new. A tiny, thin scar over the doll's chest, exactly where my stitches were. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply understood. Merowyn wasn't gone. She was inside me now. I quit my job the next day. No explanation, no goodbye. I packed what little I owned and left Briarwood. I told myself distance would fix things, that if I left the town, the museum, the archives, the coast, I could escape whatever had followed me. I was wrong. The whisper returned a week later, quiet at first, like a thought that almost belonged to me. Then, clearer, stronger, hungrier. It began naming people again, strangers this time. A rude cashier, a man who cut me off in traffic, a landlord who raised rent, tiny injustices that built frustration like fuel. It promised solutions, quick ones, clean ones. All I had to do was find another needle. I refused. For months, I fought it. I kept my hands busy. I slept with the lights on. I covered every mirror in my apartment. I avoided antique shops, craft stores, anywhere sharp things might be sold. But something changed in me after the ritual. People reacted differently around me. Children stared. Dogs whined and hid. Once, on a bus, a little girl pointed at me and said, "Mommy, her shadow is wrong." I checked when I got home. In the bathroom light, my shadow looked normal, until I turned off the light. Then, faintly, in the dim street glow through the blinds, my shadow moved. It raised one arm when I didn't. I stopped looking after that. I thought I could live like this, quietly, carefully, avoiding temptation, ignoring the whisper, until the night I found the sewing kit on my doorstep. I didn't order it, no name, no note, just a cardboard box sitting outside my door. Inside was a simple wooden sewing case, and resting inside on black velvet was a needle. Not the same one, but close enough. Black glass, red veins, a familiar warmth. My breath shook. My hands moved before my mind decided. I slammed the box shut and threw it into the dumpster behind my building. That night, the whisper turned cruel. It screamed inside my skull. Accusations, promises, threats. You owe me. You invited me. You will feed me. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor until sunrise, nails digging into my palms, whispering to myself that I was still in control. The next morning, the sewing kit was back, on my kitchen table, open, waiting. I knew then there was no outrunning this, no hiding, no pretending I was stronger than what I had invited into my life. I had two choices: become what Merowyn wanted, or end this permanently.
I returned to the coast, back to Briarwood, back to the museum, back to the archives, back to the place where it began. I broke in after hours. The security alarm never triggered, almost as if it wanted me inside. In the deepest storage room, behind steel shelves and locked cabinets, I found it. A stone slab. Carved into its surface was a familiar circle of ash-like markings, symbols of binding, symbols of sealing, symbols of endings. The counter-writ had a final instruction I hadn't dared to read before. Only the vessel may choose. One soul will remain, one will be ash. I understood. This time, there would be no survival for both of us. I placed the needle at the center of the slab. I carved the circle again. I lit 7 black candles, and I spoke aloud. Merowyn, I am here. Come take what you believe is yours. The air thickened. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged. She appeared. Not in flames this time. In my reflection on the polished floor stone. Then in the glass of a display case, then behind me. I turned. She stood there in full form, tall, crooked, wrapped in drifting ash, her body made of hundreds of interwoven threads, each one a stolen life, a stolen curse, a stolen breath. Her voice came from everywhere. You carried me, you fed me, you opened the door. Now choose. The needle lifted into the air between us, floating. One end pointed at her, the other pointed at me. A simple choice. If I stopped her, she would die, but I would become the curse in full. The vessel would inherit the hunger forever. If I stabbed myself, the vessel would die. The spirit would remain sealed, starved, trapped, unable to reach the world again. I thought of my cat, my career, my life before all of this, the small, ordinary future I once took for granted. I thought of the whisper that never stopped, the shadow that wasn't mine, the reflection that smiled without me. I knew there was no going back. So, I chose. I grabbed the needle and drove it into my own heart. Again. Pain tore through me. My vision blurred. I fell to my knees. Merowyn screamed, not in rage, in fear. Her form cracked, splintered, unraveled, threads of ash whipping through the air like burning paper. The candles exploded, the windows shattered, the stone slab split down the middle. And then everything went silent. I woke up on the museum floor as dawn light streamed through broken windows. The slab was cracked. The candles were gone. The circle of symbols was burned permanently into the stone. But the needle had turned to dust. I touched my chest. No stitches, no wound, no scar. Just a faint warmth beneath my ribs, like a sleeping ember. I left Briarwood that morning. No one stopped me. No one asked questions. No one remembered the woman who worked in the restoration lab. It was as if I had never existed there at all. Now, I live quietly, far inland. No mirrors, no sharp objects, no antiques, no needles. Most days, I almost feel normal. Almost. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I wake up with a taste of iron in my mouth and ash under my fingernails. Sometimes when I pass a sewing store, I feel something inside me press against my ribs, longing. Sometimes in dreams, I see a woman in a circle of ash, smiling patiently, waiting. Because curses don't die. They only change vessels. And one day, if I am weak, if I am angry, if I am desperate, I might invite her again. So, if you ever find a black glass needle resting on velvet, warm to the touch,
Don't pick it up. Don't wonder where it came from. Don't tell yourself curiosity is harmless, because once you invite the whisper in, it never truly leaves, and it will always ask you to choose.